What is up, everybody? Hope you are doing well. Good to see everybody in the chat here today. As always, Andrew Esquire here with The Legal Mindset to help you guys be your own judge, make your own decisions in an era where the government, where everybody else is trying to make decisions for you. It's so important to make them yourself. Guys, today we're gonna take another angle on the Depp Heard trial. We've talked to people who are lawyers, people who've been inside of the courtroom. We talked to just people who are looking at it from a layman's point of view. But when I look at this situation, when I look at what's going on, there are a lot of mental health issues involved in this case. There's lots of issues where you're seeing how Johnny Depp was a victim of abuse. And I wanted to bring in somebody who can speak a little bit more on that side, who's got more experience helping people out, helping clients out, and can also speak on the Duluth model of power and control, the power and control wheel. And we can kind of walk through that because that's something that I think a lot of people need to know about. Some people know about it already. Some people don't. We're going to walk through it today. We're going to talk about it. And in order to do that, I bring in a subject matter expert, and that is my good friend here, Jay Shore. The certified ADA advocate. It's good to have Jay back. Jay joined me about 8 months ago. We had a great conversation on ADA in relation to all the mandates and all the masking and everything else. We had a fantastic conversation. So it's only appropriate that I bring Jay back to the channel. Jay, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I want to thank you for your voice and the way that you try to educate people on how to make a choice. That's really the only thing we own is our choice. And so to educate that choice is a really huge asset. Thank you for providing that.
No, anytime. I'm happy to help.
This is a subject matter I don't really talk about a whole lot. I think part of it, we were just talking pre-show, a lot of it is that I'm still working through my own mess with domestic violence and abuse from childhood and adulthood. And I think that's an ongoing process for a lot of people.
But Jay, you're a man. You're a man. How are you abused? You're a man. I mean, is that possible that men can suffer abuse? Is that something that can happen, Jay?
Let's go ahead and cut to the chase. I'm 6'6". I'm 275 probably right now. Hopefully I'll lose some weight here soon.
You're bigger than me, Jay. I mean, you're physically more intimidating than I am.
But yeah, and see, that's another thing. I'm a big guy, so I shouldn't have any problems, right?
Yeah.
And so really at its core, all of us, I wrote a poem once. It's called All of Us, Everyone, a Little Daughter, a Little Son, Lost and Alone in Playground Fright. The thing, and I'm not going to quote the rest of the poem, but the bottom line is we're all still stuck in the model of seeking external approval and seeking to know that we're okay. And when society continues to tell us as men that we shouldn't have any problems and that we're not allowed to speak about any problems and that we're not allowed, especially not allowed to say that we've been abused because we're men, and that's not possible because we're the stronger biologically and genetically, that's not appropriate. And that construct is coming to an end. Mm-hmm. We've been gaslit and shamed into being silent. And that construct, not only is it coming to an end, it needs to come to an end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise you're going to see more and more people fall down this road. If it's well known that you can get away with abusing a man, or you can, call in a crime on a man or a criminal accusation or whatever else against a man for abuse, and it's just going to be accepted by the court. They're just going to enter it into evidence. Oh, yeah, per se, this is something that we're just automatically assume. We can see how the end result is going to look, and it's not going to be good for men everywhere and for society too, because I think the other thing too is we're looking at the negative effects of a society that is attempting to remove men in general from really any position in society, attempting to remove them from the workplace, from the family, from pretty much any aspect of aspect of society. And we're seeing that that's not good for people's mental health, especially children growing up without fathers in the home or without positive male role models. It's extremely damaging.
Yes, it's just to tell you how I got into this, I was trained as a certified ADA advocate in 2017 by Dr. Karen Huffer, the late Dr. Karen Huffer. She passed away in 2018. And then 2018, I had a friend of mine who said, look, I can't really take this course, but I believe you can, and I believe you can absorb it, and I'll pay for it if you'll go. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity. So NCVLI, National Crime Victim Law Institute in Portland, Oregon, I went to this survivor rights advocacy training and certification. And the thing is, I went through this course, and it really disturbed me because, first of all, it did not address that men could be victims of domestic abuse. And secondly, I was concerned, and I presented this to the leadership, that the system itself is abusive. Actually, that's part of my disability, is why I'm involved in all of this, is that the system itself is abusive. And how do we as men or women address that in a way that says, okay, we're going to give you a fair shot? I mean, right. You're a lawyer, and most people need to have a lawyer to go into court. They can't even function.
Right.
So it's how do people that maybe have been abused by the system, or abused by the legal system, or abused by maybe a cop, or just maybe even the domestic violence place. Maybe someone got abused and said, I need to call a domestic violence hotline. And they're like, well, really, we don't have any resources for men. I mean, basically, it's a blackout. That's what it is. Yep. And it needs to change. And so when I got my certification, I was given during training the Duluth model. And it was the power and control wheel is what it's called.
Yes.
This is the standard for domestic violence training nationwide. And National Crime Victim Law Institute, they train judges, attorneys. I mean, they train nationally. They train people nationally using this model. And I approached them about it and filed a Title IX complaint with Lewis and Clark Law School, who is they're associated with, and who is their I guess their upline sponsor. And it was just crickets started chirping. And so, I mean, I had to go on and do my life. But I mean, this is coming back around now, and NCVLI has some answering to do, because they've trained people that basically women are the victims and men cannot be the victims, and men are the perpetrators. I mean, there's 30 cases in here, at least 30 cases of her, she, her, and there are no cases of he, him in here. None.
Yeah, exactly. So what that's going through is, if you go through this, right, and you look at the language here, for example, using intimidation, let's just read that one, right? Making her afraid by using looks, action, and gestures. Once again, making her afraid. There's no him in there, right? And remember, we're in this era of everybody's trying to be gender neutral. They're trying to say it doesn't matter, genders don't matter. But this model that they're still using to teach has her in there. What is that putting in your mind? Making her afraid. Why not making him afraid? Right? That doesn't appear at all. So I guess we can go through it one by one. Let me get these two chats real quick before we jump into that, though. First is Britt, which says, not only do we have problems, we are the problem, according to some. If we did not have all this toxic masculinity, the world would be unicorns, rainbows, sunshines, and fluffy clouds. Think about that logic. Britt, that is the logic. The logic is, if men were not around, it would be all the world's problems would be solved. Every single one.
It should be the toxic assessment of masculinity. The toxic assessment of masculinity is that men are the problem and have created this, and that they can't suffer.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. It's only looking at the negatives without the positives. It's ignoring the stoicism of the guy who's out there cleaning the streets, who's out there fixing your plumbing, who's out there, the electrician, the people that are literally keeping the truckers we saw in Canada that are keeping this country and everything flowing, ignoring the work they're doing, ignoring the positive effects of them, ignoring the good fathers out there, ignoring the people that are standing up for people in court like you are, Jay, or the good lawyers out there, the few that exist, ignoring those people, and only looking at the bad ones. It's really a false equivalency here. And using, by the way, they'll use the worst of the worst examples, right? They'll use the exceptions to prove the rule, which is absolutely disgusting. New Horizon says, I wanted to thank you for answering for your answer this morning in MLD's group about recording others for my safety. Thank you and Godspeed. Hey, New Horizons, you're welcome. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. I was on my friend's group. I was talking about risk analysis as a man. So it was a men's group, and I was talking about risk analysis for men and what risks you can have in your life and whether or not to record people. It was a very good conversation. So thank you.
I believe in it.
Yeah, I mean, what I said is, this is my perspective. If you have a home, and you're going to feel more secure in your home, do it, right? Within the confines of your home, within the context of your home. I think if you're worried and you're concerned, do it. Worry about whether it's admissible in evidence later. That's a whole separate topic, right? But if you're concerned about your safety, your personal safety, I think for your own health and sanity, just do it, right? You'll know you have it. So, okay, let me get back to this wheel. And I just want to walk through it for people, because I think, Jay, a lot of people just have never really realized like what this is and kind of how bad this thing is. Okay. So let's start with the intimidation, right? So using intimidation, making her afraid by using.
You want to zoom in on it?
Sure. Let me zoom in a little bit here. We'll just move that right over here, and we'll start with intimidation. That big enough for you?
It'll work.
It'll work. Okay. So intimidation is the top of the Duluth wheel. By the way, the center of the wheel is power and control, right? So everything is about power and control. And this is all meant to show what is physical violence. So using intimidation, making her afraid by using looks, actions, gestures, smashing things, destroying her property, abusing pets, displaying weapons.
Wow, this is so sobering, because in the Heard presentation, we've already seen that she's thrown his. There's reports of her throwing his belongings over the balcony, giving his dog away. I mean, seriously, this is gut wrenching, and it's gut wrenching because it's so. The terms in the legal field are palpable and distinct. These are palpable and distinct harms that come upon us as a species. This is not. I want to be clear here. This is not male exclusive either.
No,
but
no,
the bottom line is we feel these things and are not allowed yet. The tide is turning, but we're not allowed yet to express these things freely, and that's got to change. So yeah, this is
so problem. in the context of the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, like you mentioned, right? So just using intimidation. If we're going to say, okay, let's apply this to the case. Let's look at this in the case. People could say, oh, well, Johnny Depp smashed stuff. Like maybe he did, right? Maybe he did smash stuff, right? But if you're really looking at the factors on this one, Amber Heard ticks off almost every single one. She, threw the bottles. She. I would say she abused the pets by saying that the pet was the one that did the grumpy on the bed.
Right.
I
saw an analogy the other day that said she checks off more boxes than Ron Jeremy. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Oh, that's a good one for the legal mindset. That's a great line. Checks off more boxes than Ron Jeremy. Oh yeah. My God, that's good. So abusing pets, destroying property. I mean, she clearly did that around the apartment. I also think that she was the one that destroyed her nightgown and wrapped up the meat in it. That's so weird. It's something that I think she would do if anybody. And then the weapon is the bottle, right? I mean, the bottle was the weapon, right? I mean, a weapon is what you make it. A pencil can be a weapon. Anything can be a weapon if you want to make it a weapon. So yeah, I think in terms of using intimidation, she did that. And then you take her gestures, her actions of chasing him around the house. I mean,
God,
to me, Jay,
telling him he can't leave.
Right. I mean, have you seen that level of? Have you seen this? Have you had experience with that level of kind of? I want to say histrionics. In your experience.
So in this case, I'll call it histrionics, but but I am in doing ADA work, and a lot of times this has to do with custody matters. I've seen men and women fall into this, where they're this affected and this abused, and the thing about a guy is going into a judge and talking about this. I mean, honestly, our legal system. I've got a video of a judge. She's retired now in Oregon, Eve Miller, and there was a female that was in front of her that had PTSD, and Dr. Huffer was advocating for this female and said that just because she has PTSD doesn't mean that she needs to lose her kids. And the judge turns around and goes off on Dr. Huffer and puts testimony onto the record. I mean, she's testifying, basically saying that she brings another case in about a guy, uses a guy, saying this guy took an AK-47 and held his child hostage to prove a point, and she took the child away from the guy. She's using this guy to propound on this woman. I mean, seriously, the terror that the court system and the system as a whole, puts out, using this model, this faulty model that guys are problematic. I mean, it affects both genders, and so yeah, it's a real problem, and it's rampant.
It leads to a presumption, and it's a false presumption. I mean, Christian is saying that in the super chat here. He says, I had to take a domestic violence class through Virginia in order to have my case dropped down to a non-criminal city ordinance with a DV mod. The class had this wheel and was bullshit. My ex had no evidence and almost ruined me. I hate hearing stories like this, Jay. That really hurts me, to hear that this is what this is what people are doing,
Yeah. The VA, the VA there might have been the Veterans Administration too. And the thing is, they're supposed to be offering all kinds of resources, and they're not. I mean, I've walked into the VA with veterans, and it's horrific how they're treated, how they're basically they're stonewalled. So yeah, it's a problem.
Sorry, yeah, you're probably right there. Probably is. And Christian, if it is the Veterans Association, speak up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interpret that as Virginia, but I think he's right. It is Veterans Association more likely. So that makes a whole lot of sense. Yes, testing your super chat works. So appreciate that. Your test is operational. 2X Vision. Jesus Christ, the audio quality. Give your head a shake. This is DS certified. Please look at a modern Platonics headset. Hey, it happens. I can try to adjust the just the volume a little bit if it's bad.
Is my audio not working right?
No, it's fine. It sounds fine to me. I'll adjust it a little bit. But it sounded good to me. So yeah, I don't know. It sounds fine on my end. I don't know if it's just him. But yeah. Oh yes, and I think it's confirmed. Veterans Association. Trust me, I have to use that garbage.
Veterans Affairs. There you go. Sorry, Veterans Affairs. Sorry.
Yeah, Veteran Administration, Veteran Affairs. Yeah, cool. So Veteran Affairs. Got it. Christian says Veteran Affairs. Got it. So yeah, I mean, in the way, once again, the fact that Veterans Affairs is treating, once again, the people it's supposed to be servicing as the criminals is it's kind of disgusting. All right. So let's get back to the wheel. So using coercion and threats, making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt her, right? And let me just flip this around. Let me just switch the her for and him, because we're doing Amber Heard here and on the Giant Depp. Making or carrying out threats to do something to hurt him, threatening to leave him, to commit suicide, to report him to welfare, making him drop charges, making him do illegal things. Guess what, Jay? In this case, we had literally Amber Heard getting Johnny to file a false police report.
Oh my God, yes.
Think about that. They filed a false police report on this one.
So he wouldn't get more grief and harm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's unreal.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to point out too is as an ADA advocate, the prohibited acts under the ADA are using coercion, intimidation, threats, and interference. And you'll notice on these top two segments, coercion and threats and intimidation. I mean, these are prohibited, and domestic violence can exactly can be a physical and mental impairment that substantially limits many major life activities: thinking, concentrating, interacting with others, sleeping, working. I mean, she's taking pictures of him sleeping, working. I mean, she's actually affected him working now. And so I mean, this can be a disability under the ADA, and these are prohibited acts under the ADA. And these are basically what we have here with this power control will for guys is a guilty until proven innocent setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, it's enraging. They want to know why we're reacting so strongly. It's because this has been pent up for so long and refused for so long. This voice has been refused for so long. And yes, I mean, on Twitter, I mean, I'm angry. I'm putting some stuff out that I'm thinking, should I say this? Yes, I should. Because honestly, if I'm not true to who I am and how I felt, this is a problem. And that's what society has said with this will.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To go right through it here, using emotional abuse, putting, I'm going to switch it to all these to him, guys. So you guys see how it would be if it's say him instead of her. Putting him down, making him feel bad about herself, calling him names, making him think he's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating him, making him feel guilty. I think we see most of those. I think we would see most of those there, right? Using isolation, controlling what he does. Once again, this is the same girl who wanted to take the boots on and off, right? Who he sees and talks to, what he reads, where he goes, limiting his outside involvement, using jealousy to justify actions. That's isolation. Minimizing, denying, blaming, making light of the abuse, not taking his concerns about it seriously, saying the abuse doesn't happen, shifting responsibility for abusive behavior, saying he caused it. Using children, making him feel guilty about the children, using children to relay messages, using visitation to harass him, threatening to take the children away, using female privilege, treating him like a servant, making all the big decisions, acting like the master of the castle, being the one to define a man and woman's role. Okay, so, and let me just read this last one, and then I want to come back to the using male privilege, because this one I think just puts it out there, right? Using economic abuse, preventing him from getting or keeping a job. Well, she kind of caused him to lose the job at Pirates, right?
Right.
Making him ask for money, giving him an allowance, taking his money, not letting him know or have access to family income. All right, so let's go back, because I want to get this one. So, when we talk about the Duluth model being biased and this and that, a lot of these are covertly biased, right? So they're covertly biased against men. But I think where it just comes out is the male privilege part. Like, this is the part where they just take the mask off. They're like, okay, this is just a feminist tool here. It's just using the phrase male privilege. Jay, do you feel privileged as a male, that you have privileges and immunities as a male?
There are privileges for males and females, and I'll have to say, I can go pick up 100-pound stack of whatever, and that's a privilege for me biologically.
Yes.
But there's also privileges that women have that are, I mean, we're not measuring out equally what privilege is and what privilege is not. Right. And to put male privilege in a power and control will, where domestic violence and sexual violence and abuse. And if you'll scroll around the bottom, pull that bottom part up there.
Oh yeah, sure.
On the black will.
Part? Yeah.
So there's sexual, and then at the top is domestic. So this is for sexual and domestic violence.
Yep.
And so, and when you put in a power control will that male privilege is a common denominator, then what you've just done is you've painted a picture that males are the perpetrators and females are the victims. I mean, generally speaking, and that's not true. So there's a reckoning going on right now, and it is a reckoning that I welcome, and love that it's happening. I mean, I got to be honest with you. Going through these things, I'm sitting there kind of just smiling and nodding some. Part of this is traumatizing.
But that's all you can do, Jay. All you can do is smile and nod at it, because what can you do? I mean, there's no even arguing or debating this, because this is not a conversation. This is being told that you are exercising this power and control. Therefore, by default, essentially, you are physically, sexually violent, right? That is you are committing that violence to her.
One of the most egregious examples of this is the oft repeated terminology that all men are rapists.
Yes.
I mean, come on. I mean, seriously, all men are rapists.
Yep.
I mean, that's not only offensive; it's harmful. It's it's defamation of character without a chance to rebut.
Yep. With no opportunity to rebut. None at all.
Right.
Absolutely none at all. Let me bring up this one. Here's a good one. Shut Up, I Can Cook says, guys, you gave women this power. Men are super feminists, even Africans. Stop them. Sir, men gave women this power. Well, it's both. It's right, because it was asked for, it was granted, right? And there's culpability for all people, regardless of gender, on this one, right? There's culpability on the female side. There's culpability on the male side, right? There's culpability on all sides in this case. So there's men that are enabling the Duluth model, right? The Duluth model couldn't be executed without men backing that up and people believing that. However, it came out of a movement that was primarily female. So, I mean, there's culpability on a lot of sides here, but regardless, we're stuck with the state where this is the law of the land, where this is the governing principle. I mean, Jay, the Duluth model is taught in schools still, right? And in government institutions.
Well, it's like I said, when I went to NCVLI, one of the things that I noticed was that they said that they teach lawyers and judges and they teach people in the system. One of the examples that came up, this happened right when I was in class, right before there was a Judge Kenneth Walker in Portland, Oregon. Now, this is a reverse of what we're talking about, but Kenneth Walker had a domestic violence victim in front of him who was a woman, and she was supposed to read a victim impact statement. And he stopped her 3 times and finally said, look, I've heard enough. And I mean, this is where she's supposed to have her voice. And he stops her and says, I've heard enough. Of course, this came out in national media. And in class, do you think it was brought up? Well, it was brought up one way. Right. Perhaps the judge needed a little bit more training, or maybe he had a bad day. That's perpetrator compensation is what that is. And that's what's going on with Amber Heard, with people like Eve Fartlow and Dr. Proudman, those kinds of people. I mean, they're basically they're perpetrator compensating, and also they're gaslighting. One of the common denominators in this is the gaslighting piece. You have a low self-esteem if you believe that women can be the abuser. You are anti-women. You hate women if you believe that women can be the abuser. There's all kinds of gaslight, all kinds of scurrilous terms that are hurled out, and all we're saying is she's lying.
Right.
She's lying.
Women have the ability. In fact, if anything, it's an equitable argument. Women have the same ability to lie that men do, right? You are, say women can do everything men can. Okay, yes, that includes lying, right?
We all lie.
We all lie. Everybody lies. Women lie too. Men lie. Everybody lies, right? It's something that's a universal human trait. Unless you're saying that women are incapable of lying. I remember. There was in the fantasy book Wheel of Time, which I read way back in the day when I was trying to get pages for a reading competition. There's like a magical cast in this fictional book where you can't lie, but what they would do is they would just have lies of omission, right? So you just omit information or you misrepresent information. So even if you were said, hey, you can't directly lie, indirect lies are pretty good too. I love how Armed Trucker says here, this wheel describes what my ex tried to do to me. Once again,
I'm glad you escaped.
once again, thank you for speaking up. I really appreciate that. I like, I appreciate that you guys are comfortable, putting out there that, hey, this is happening to you guys too, because I think we need more people. We need to put this out there on the internet and everywhere and kind of expose that this is happening to men. There are men suffering from these issues, and they're just as serious. When your ex does that to you, that is just as serious as the opposite scenario, right?
Yes.
Mr. Nickaballs, the wheel is on paper and not unbreaded. The author needs to clarify their Jack Murphy article. Yeah, the wheel is very it's very breaded. Let me pull up your article here because I wanted to get to this. This is something that I think you put together, and I really thought it was a thoughtful way to think about this. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on was this article you have, Jay, on victim exclusivity entitlement. So this is your Substack. And you say the phenomenon of victim exclusive entitlement, or VEE, is when a group or segment, perhaps even an individual, illegitimately claims exclusive rights to being the victim of certain trauma or abuses. VEE is accompanied by an exclusion of others who experience the same or similar trauma or abuses. Can you talk about this and a little bit about the context with Amber Heard?
What you're seeing on my Substack is me working through my own shit. So, I mean, that's just how it works. But yeah, it's like basically, if there was abuse, or if there was intimidation, or if there was coercion. Let's say Johnny smashed some things, as you were saying earlier. Well, that means he abused her as well. Well, guess what? That doesn't mean that he wasn't abused. And that's what a lot of people that are on the Amber Heard's, not a lot of people, I don't really think there are that many people on her side, but the people who are on her, the people who are on her side.
Yeah, the bots are on her. It's like Eve Barlow and a bunch of bots are on her side. That's pretty much it. Yes,
they're the ones that are saying that because of that, he was just as guilty. And that's not true. I mean, there's a I mean, the thing with the legal piece is there's scales, and we have to weigh these things out. And I want to be real clear here. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not trying to act like one. I just deal with them all the time. And so, and you know my history, you know my former name. But nonetheless, when I say name, Nom de Gore, online name. But so yeah, these things with Amber Heard, I mean, she's trying to exclude that Johnny was a victim. That's what she's trying to do when she says when she goes into a Washington Post article, op-ed, and says, I was abused. Well, that totally excludes that he was abused. Totally does. Mm-hmm. And so she's claiming victim exclusivity entitlement there, and actually taking a job with the ACLU by using the victim exclusivity entitlement. And I just made that term up, but it fits. And so the victim exclusivity entitlement is a problem, and it's a problem for men because, I mean, the Duluth, the power control will, I mean, and they have several modifications of the will. I made one for COVID. We already talked about that 6 months ago when I was on. But the main power control will has victim exclusivity entitlement interwoven into it. It says that the women are the victims and that men are the perpetrators of violence. So
yep. And in this particular case, I think you see Amber trying to paint herself as that sole victim, right? She's trying to say that I'm the only one. In this instance, she's trying to say, I'm the only one who has the right to claim that I am the victim of violence here, that I'm the victim of trauma, that I'm the only one to do that. And that's to the exclusion of anything that Johnny Depp experienced, right? Regardless of whether, by the way, regardless of whether or not Johnny Depp did many of the things that they claim he did, because I mean, I'll believe that he was slamming cabinets at some point, yelling, whatever. But he was also going through drug addiction and withdrawal. And I think when you're fighting that battle, which is a tough battle, you need some leeway to be able to, get out those those emotions and reactions you're feeling with. I mean, he was on a heck of a lot of drugs. So going through withdrawal, there's going to be some naturally extreme reactions.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to say Chris Banks says we're heard sniffing coke on the stand. So we I don't know if you saw this Jay, but there was a clip, a very short clip, where Heard clearly inhales something. She has a napkin and she inhales.
Yes.
So the debate was was it coke? But then somebody brought up the alternative theory that it was something to make her cry, like a capsaicin or something else like that. Where like
I believe that's more likely.
Yeah, and I was like that.
I mean, to bring coke into a courtroom is, I'm thinking, even for her, that's beyond belief. So
that's a bold move. That's a real bold move to bring coke into a courtroom.
Yeah, I don't think it was coke. It's fun seeing that and seeing that it looks a lot like it, but because honestly, what we really want is some relief. We need a little bit of relief during this whole thing. So
let me ask you something, because you've worked with actual victims. You've worked with people who have been damaged psychologically, physically in courtrooms, and in various situations, high stress situations. Does Amber Heard, does her physical reactions, the way that she is reacting on the stand, the way she's acting, does that line up with the victims and people that you've worked with in your life, the people that you've seen that have gone through real trauma and real genuine, abusive situations?
I'm going to have to go ahead and put a disclaimer right here that I'm probably going to be a little bit biased on this, but
that's okay. I'm okay with that.
But because of my own trauma and being squelched on this for so long, and this is the tool that's bringing all this out. But to see her actions, it's repulsive to see her try so hard, and it's also disorienting because she keeps shifting back between emotions, actions, facial expressions. It's very disorienting, and it brings to mind when I was in my teen years and trying to really figure out who I was. I had a friend, and nobody back home's going to know who this friend was by me saying his first name. But I'm going to, Anne Lamott says, "Tell your stories. If people wanted to be remembered fondly, they should have behaved better." But the guy's name was Troy, and Troy and I were started out as good friends. And one day he told me something and knew in my gut that this was not right. And I'm like, I don't think I should say anything to him about it. I just went around him and checked it out. And when I found out that it was factually a lie, I approached him about it. And I said, okay, man, don't do that again. Well, he did it again. And it was a pathological, habitual thing for him. And I got the same gut feeling the next time, and I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. That's the kind of feeling I get with Amber Heard. I mean, it's just like, holy crap, this is just it's full auto revulsion against what I feel like is a constant lie. So picking up on lies, picking up on untruths, it's kind of a defense mechanism for me. I'm not claiming to be an expert. And I mean, there have been experts that have weighed in on this. One of them's the body language expert. She's on TikTok. I can't remember her name. But she's weighed in on it. And so, I mean, for me, it's just, it's repulsive. It makes me want to go, oh my, it triggers my fight or flight. I want to run. Yeah.
There's definitely multiple, experts that have weighed in on this, right? I mean, you're just one guy who's giving the opinion, but what you're doing is you're affirming what other people have said and what other people are saying. And we're seeing for body language, you're naming one person on TikTok. It's actually, at this point, I've seen at least, guys in the chat, let me know if you guys think differently. I've seen at least 6 different videos, 6 different people who are experts who've been doing body language. Like that's what they do on YouTube, on TikTok, other places. I mean, people that do body language, and every single one of them consistently has said her body language is disingenuous. It's not consistent. It's not something that somebody actually would have. One of the big things I've heard is fragmented memory. If you have a trauma, you're going to have fragmented memory. You're not going to go into these details about the carpet. You're not going to go into these minute details. It's going to be patchy. And that's
My
not
dog
what you're
stepped on a bee.
Yeah. Yeah. People are saying 14 people, 6 to 10. That sounds about right. I mean, there's a lot of body language experts out there, and I think all of them are consistent. Are pretty consistent on this one. I mean, we're seeing lots of evidence. Have you heard the audio from Australia? Some of the audio that kind of just like really shows the abuse was going on behind the scenes.
Where she's taunting him.
There's some of that. Yeah. There's let me see if I can play this real quick. This is from. Let me make sure there's audio here. But there's these clips from this was posted on Incredibly Average. It hasn't actually been admitted into evidence yet, but essentially as part of this testimony, and this audio is really bad quality. So this guy went through and subtitled it, right? But essentially this is audio where the doctor here is talking with the nurse that's on scene. And, or actually, I believe they're actually both looking at the injury and talking about how serious it is. And really, it shows that Amber Heard is the one who committed the abuse.
The majority of the blood, Debbie, is downstairs, but I went through that really carefully.
So they're looking for the finger, but here we go. Here's the point that I want to bring up. So the doctor is saying that he's going to send Amber off because she's combative, right? And the doctor is trying to help Amber, right? Trying to say, hey, she should be in Los Angeles with a support system. And then she runs away, right? So this is a typical, response we can see here from somebody, with I think with her personality, right? If you see somebody who's got, this HPD, right? She's not going to be open to this suggestion of help, the suggestion of, cooling down. She's going to want to try to attack this, right? Because her personality is
maintain control.
Maintain control. Thank you. And have you seen instances of that in your work with folks who are just trying to maintain that control?
Oh wow! The detractors on her side are saying that he's using the legal system to further abuse her, and I mean that honestly, this is a problem system wide. I mean, where one party will come and use the legal system to further abuse the other side. I mean, seriously, this is a rampant issue, and I think every judge that runs a family court system probably lacks in adequate training on how to deal with this, because it's just everything in this situation is not what it seems, especially when you have this skewed of a setup going on, and there's so many biases and heuristics that have been in play for so long that we've got to use unconventional means to change this. And I really wanted to bring this in. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, and he is a genius when it comes to thought. He goes and looks at the adverse side of the coin so much. And he's got a book called David and Goliath, How the Underdog Can Win. And right now, guys, we're the underdogs. No kidding. And so what he did a study of this guy who sorry for getting caught up here in my speech. He observes a study done by a guy named Ivan Aragon-Toft. And Ivan Aragon-Toft goes and looks at the last 200 years of warfare between David-sized armies and Goliath-sized armies. The Goliath-sized armies were 10 times as powerful as the Goliath-sized armies in size and strength and warfare, weaponry. Sorry. And so about 28% of the time, the David-sized armies would win. That
Yes.
in and of itself is a feat. But when they used unconventional methods, their odds of winning went up 35.1%, and it went to 63.6% that they could win. So we've got to speak up. That we've got, even and especially when we're being told to shut up, we've got
Yes.
to speak up. That's one thing. You can't shut somebody up when they won't shut up. I mean, that's really an aggravating part of life. But there are going to be some times where you have a block button. But the other thing is, you need to talk to somebody about this. It took me 16 years to go and document this with somebody, and I'm not a real big fan of the mental health system. I think they've got some things wrong too. But I went to someone who I felt like I could document my situation with and feel things out. And I got a diagnosis that helped me out, PTSD. And just recently, this past year, I went to a friend that I'd met through a couple of clients, and I said, look, I need to do some sessions with you. I'm going to pay you. I need to do some sessions. Let's re-up some things. And I went through some there's an online tool that they use. It's got like 200 or 300 questions in it, and went through some things. I mean, do what you can to help yourself, but the unconventional path to get there is just as good as the conventional path. Whatever you can do. Yeah.
Jay, that is I want to underline that, guys. And it's so true. We can win, and we are winning, guys. The truth is getting out there because we are fighting in an unconventional way. Because, like you said, we're bringing this information, we're getting this information out through alternative means. And Jay's posting on Substack. He's not posting on the New York Times. He's not posting on the Washington Post, right? We're not in the mainstream. We're not on Fox or MSNBC, right? And I'm including right and left mainstream periodicals here. This is not getting out there in the mainstream information. It's getting out there through alternative means, but the information is getting out there. Justice for Johnny Depp really started through unconventional means, and now it became mainstream. It won. I would say at this point, the narrative has won. I mean, what I'm seeing out there is people have woken up to the extent that, regular, like I've talked about, regular people, the same people that were writing on BLM and writing on all these other popular waves are now joining the Justice for Johnny Depp because they're seeing the coverage. They're seeing the streams that are out there. They're watching the people streaming this and saying, oh, wow, she's clearly lying right now. And the memes tell the story, right? The fact that the memes are out there, people are mocking them, and just the general sentiment is moving against them. That's great. Now let's use that for good. Let's use that to, show it's him too, not just me too, it's him too, right? The guys are on the receiving end here. Let's get that message out there. If one good thing can come of this, trial, it's awareness that men can be the victims of domestic violence, can be the victims of abuse, and certainly that narcissistic and histrionic women like Amber Heard are out there. They exist. Let's acknowledge that. And they are the predators that will prey upon vulnerable people. And not everybody has the resources that Johnny Depp had, because he's blessed to have millions of dollars to bring a legal case. Most people do not have his level of resources. Or ability to fight back.
Yeah, it's. I want to point out one thing that I heard Gary Vee say a few weeks back. He was comparing weakness and vulnerability, and I just want to say to guys, it doesn't make you weak to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is actually a superpower, because vulnerability is where you actually connect with truth. When you actually pull away all of the curtains and throw away all the baggage, you say, okay, this is who I am, the raw version of me, this is who I am. And intimacy, and I've done a lot of studying on a lot of this. I've actually written a book on this one. But intimacy is proceeding to and past the point of vulnerability without judgment. So if you can be intimate with somebody, even if it's with a therapist, if you can find a therapist who will say, okay, listen, I want to sit here and hear what you got to say. I'm not going to give you any judgment. And that's what they're supposed to do. But that's actually where you can see yourself clearer than any other time. If you can be vulnerable and not be judged, that's where you can be yourself more purely. So, I just encourage you to, weakness is not vulnerability, and vulnerability is not weakness. So just be you.
Yeah, and I like this one. Mike says, because this is a great one. Thank you, Mike. Mike says, doesn't vulnerability mean you're not a sociopath too?
We would hope. Yes,
Yeah,
we would hope.
yeah. I mean, look, we should all have the ability to admit, look, I make a lot of mistakes. I'm not a perfect person, right? Sometimes I do things wrong. Sometimes I do things wrong, whether it's me being a boomer in my streams and sharing the wrong information, or, being late with the videos or whatever else. I make mistakes. I admit that. I make interpersonal mistakes. I'm not a perfect person, but the whole point is you should be on the path of trying to improve, admitting those mistakes, owning them, and moving towards improvement. When I see somebody who has done no wrong, can do no wrong, and is presenting themselves as a perfect person, there's a narrative that doesn't line up there. And
Sure.
And that's where it is. Someone's saying Ricada is pretty perfect. Guys, listen. I'm not going to go in on Nick right now. I'll wait to get on his stream before I rag on him. But Nick has a couple deficiencies. His liver is not one of them, though. He can drink like a fish, so I will give him that. Yeah. Are there any other thoughts you had on the Amber Heard trial in general, and things and other questions it raises in terms of mental health and in general? We focus a lot on the men's side of it, but just in general for mental health issues.
Exploitative is the word that comes to mind, and we were talking about earlier that we can, we can be abused, and the thing is, as guys, we can be abused, but there's a certain lilt and phonetic pattern that when you hear the whine, the tenor of the female voice saying, seriously, it's a disarming technique.
It is. It triggers your instinct. Right. That's why I was talking with someone about this yesterday. And when you start crying, and you hear a female crying, it's almost, especially for men, it's almost like hearing, and this is it. I know the ladies in the chat are going to not like this comparison, but there are biological reactions to a baby crying. Right. I'm not saying it's the same, but I'm saying it's a biological reaction, and that's hardwired in us from our genetics from thousands of years. When you hear the baby crying, men and women are like, oh, we got to go. What's wrong with the baby? Right. Because back in the day, the baby could die. It could be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Who knows? Right. The baby's crying for a reason. You go check on the baby. Right. When you hear a woman crying, right, instinctively, there's things that are triggered within you, regardless of your level of control, in order to, using that to manipulate an outcome is, in my opinion, Jay, I'm going to call it a form of manipulation and a form of abuse.
Exploitative, yes. Exploitative. And if it's used that way, and it's
if it's used that way, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a natural response and it can be a natural reaction. But if it's used to control and produce an outcome that's less than honest, and here we get back to relationship. What are the 4 pillars of relationship? Communication, trust, honesty, and respect. And if those 4 are in play, then everything's cool. But if those 4 are not in play, if one of them's out of whack, probably 2 or 3 of them are out of whack. So the exploitation of using, I mean, just like men have natural physical strength biologically, this is something that women have biologically that is an asset to them if they, however they play it. And the thing is, can it be detrimental to a man to have it exploited? Yes, it can. Mm-hmm. So, and it has been.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and one thing I really appreciate from you is, and you've brought this up several times in this chat, but I want to reinforce it because a lot of folks probably missed your first time on here, but is the legal system itself, guys, because the system, right? The system, it's not fun to go through a court case. What Johnny Depp is going through, like having to sue, like a lot of people, I think they have this misconception of the legal system. They go, I'm going to use the legal system. I'm going to sue their pants off. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get justice. It is a toll, regardless of whether you're the plaintiff or the defendant, but even as the plaintiff, it is not a fun experience. It is not a good thing you want to go through. It is not something that is going to reduce the stress in your life. It is not going to add happiness to your life to be part of the legal system. The legal system, and I say this as a lawyer, it's oppressive. It's time consuming. You have parties, you have actors that are coming in bad faith. Most lawyers, and I say this as a lawyer, right? Most lawyers have some sort of intent that runs counter to your best interest, whether that's, hey, let me run the clock here on this invoice, let me milk another hour or two out of you to, draw down this retainer, or whether that's, let me draw out this process, or let me have a handshake deal with the opposing counsel so we kind of know how this is going to go beforehand, but we have a little dog and pony show to, act things out. There's all sorts of ways in which lawyers are bad agents, judges which abuse their authority, which think they're God, and they've come down to this earth to, define what justice is and isn't. There's all sorts of these elements that are, to me, oppressive, and Jay, I mean, to you, you've brought up the system being abusive. So I just want to highlight that a little bit.
I had actually lost my train of thought on what we talked about earlier, so you brought it back around. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
The doctrine of parens patriae, the state is the parent. And in this Duluth power control wheel, I'll point out that oftentimes when someone calls the police and says that the woman has hit or struck or abused the man will be the one to get arrested and taken to jail. And whether that's to under the auspices of giving the woman time to get out of the situation and get a better place to, it's unfair regardless. And so what's happened is parens patriae. With domestic violence, we say it's intimate partner violence. I would say there is no more intimate partner than the system that you're depending on to survive. Mm-hmm. And when it abuses, when it says we're going to automatically arrest the guy for a violence call, even if they know that he was not the one who perpetrated the violence, yes, that's wrong. So yes.
But guys, here's an important thing, Jay. I don't want to leave this point that you mentioned. Thank you for bringing that up. Most people don't know about mandatory arrest. Guys, mandatory arrest is the law of the land in the majority of the states in the United States, which is if there's a DV call, a domestic violence call, and the cops come to your house, regardless of whether you called them, your neighbors called them, some random third party called them, in many states, they have to drag somebody away. They have to take somebody out of that house. Right? That's mandatory arrest. So there's a call. They've got to bring somebody out. There's been case law and case precedent where they failed to do that and they were found liable. So now they say, okay, well, we're going to take somebody out. Right? And 99 out of 100 times, it's the guy. Right? It's the guy getting dragged out of his own apartment. Right? Whether or not his name's on it, it doesn't matter. They'll drag him out. He's the one who's spending time at a friend's house in a hotel, or maybe even in a jail cell that night because of those laws, right? And that's structural. That's built in there, and it's set against guys just based on the factors that they look at. Nico says it's a biological reaction, and that audio of Amber screaming, "You're killing me! You're killing me!" triggered it in me too. I think that's the problem. Is they took that statement, right? They took a isolated clip of a woman screaming, "You're killing me, you're killing me," and said, this alone justifies it, right? Despite the fact that, I don't know about you, Jay, but I've been in lots of, personally, I've been in interactions where if you clipped the interaction, it would sound really bad.
Yes.
It would sound really bad. I've been ones where I've said things. I'll even put it on myself. I've said things that if you clip them, if you clip my videos on YouTube, you can clip them and make me sound really bad. Let alone my private conversations, especially the conversations I've had with my girlfriends. I've had conversations with them, tough conversations, where, it would sound horrible. And to think that the one little clip, 10 seconds can go viral, be taken completely out of context. And not only that, but not only lead to me being painted as an abuser, but as the person who's the true abuser being named by international organizations like the ACLU as representatives of domestic violence, gender identity violence, right? That's haunting.
that's hanging a 10-pound overcoat on a straight pin. It's just not going to hold up.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and the system as a whole needs to reorient on this. We need to stop, ask questions, and reorient. And I mean, I see it. I say it a lot in court. I mean, it's a system where you run people through. It's a mill, and so you run people through, and there's just not time to ask questions because they don't take time to ask questions. So
yeah,
we got to change it.
It's the system has to be changed, guys, and this is what we're coming at. From this case, hopefully there can be some systematic changes. I'm not putting a bet on that. I'm not going to Vegas and putting odds on that. But what needs to happen is there need to be systematic changes in order for them to be positive to really come out of this in the long run. Christian says, I was arrested at school. I believe that school is probably the abbreviation there. My lawyer made an agreement with my ex to drop the restraining order only if I paid her monthly and gave her other items only option. Wow, Christian, that's blackmail. I mean, and once again, if we're going back to that Duluth model, that Duluth power
it's manipulation.
Exactly. It's financial manipulation.
Yep.
Insane.
But it can't happen to you, Christian, because you're a guy.
Yep.
So we can't use those terms with you. We have to, it's unfortunate that it happened, but because the society has said that the Duluth model, and I mean, right now, seriously, I want to call out NCVLI and the Duluth model for being sexist. And I brought this to their attention back in 2018, and crickets were chirping. And right now, we've got a point in time where this needs to be changed, and you need to get off your ass and do something about it. Because honestly, there's a lot of guys who are out here suffering. And so, Christian, I totally empathize with that.
Yeah. And Brandon says manipulation for financial gain, extortion. Yeah, I mean, those are definitely things right there. I mean, it's definitely you're seeing it. Now, Susan says, what would happen if it were a transgender couple? Okay, I love your hypotheticals, right? But once again, if it was a transgender couple, they're both transgender. Well, which one is masculine presenting? Which one is larger? Which one's
I want to speak to that because in my training with NCVL, I mean, this is in Portland, Oregon. So I mean, the ideal there is common. And so somebody did bring up if this were a lesbian couple, that it would be the stronger of the lesbian couple that would be the perpetrator usually. And the thing is that too in and of itself is oppressive, because to presume that just because someone is physically stronger, they're going to be the perpetrator of abuse. I mean, that affects the whole spectrum, LGBTQ, all those people too. So I mean, when I say it like that, my jury's still out on all that. This is not the call for that.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to work through all my stuff. But in that situation, when I was trained, it was the stronger of the couple that would be considered usually the perpetrator, and that in and of itself is also discriminatory in my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, okay, let's say we're saying the stronger the couple. Well, the trans guy, right? So we're thinking about like someone like Leah Thomas, right? The swimmer, the infamous, trans swimmer, right? Leah Thomas, William, formerly William, now Leah, right? William is going to be physically bigger because he went through puberty as a male. He is biologically a male. His bone structure is male. He's going to be punished for being biologically male, right? Regardless of whether he can call himself whatever he wants, right? He can call himself Apache helicopter. It doesn't matter. He's going to be he's physically male. Therefore, there's a bias against biological males, against the XY chromosome, right? I'm sorry, that's the way it is, right? The bias is against you genetically. So once again, it's really funny how we're seeing that, okay, there's no difference in between genders until it comes down to the law. When the law is activated, now there's a difference between the genders. But before, like when we give, we're talking theory land, we're talking make believe, the stakes really don't matter. Okay, they don't exist. But now we're back to the debate over. There's the Roe versus Wade debate. And other debates where, hey, now it matters, right? When we're coming to a DV situation, it matters.
I'd love to have a talk with you on all of those subjects outside of this Duluth model.
Yeah, that's a separate.
It's a little bit sticky to go into those
On YouTube, especially because here's the thing about YouTube, I already pushed the limit on my channel. I push the limit hard, and I fight every single decision when guys, even us talking about this, I guarantee you we'll get limited. I'll have to come back. I'll have to get it reviewed. They're gonna try to ding this, but I fight them on every single one. I generally win, but that's one topic that I think we're gonna have to bring to our other platforms. And by the way, guys, if you want to follow Jay. He's got his Substack, and I've got that pinned in the description below. Make sure you do that. There's over 1,300 of you, almost 1,400. Make sure you smash the like button. And if you like his content, you can go over there and check him out. Nicole Fefe says, I think I'm talking about different audio DM'd on Twitter. Okay, so I'll try to pull this up on Twitter and see if I can play this audio. If you're sending over very specific audio. Always feel free to send me stuff on audio.
I'm on Twitter as well. I'm under certified_ADA, or I think it's certified_ADA. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
a little bit of a free radical there.
Yeah, and Twitter, at least it's a little bit more free, right? I mean, that's the whole point.
I'm definitely unleashed right now.
This is a 6-minute clip. You've got 6 minutes to listen to some audio, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sure. So let's listen to this, guys. So we're going to tune in to the audio. Thank you for setting this up. We'll tune into this, and then I'll let Jay, give his 2 cents on his take on this. Obviously, hopefully it doesn't, it's not too disturbing, but we'll go through it.
Statement you feel you are also in the interest of working it out.
I think it's a good idea for us to take a moment or two, take some time. Take some time to think by ourselves without being.
So he's listening to audio. So he's not speaking himself, just to understand. He's listening to audio play.
Gotcha.
Barraged by each other's fucking bullshit, whatever. I just let's take a break from it, and then come back, try and be calm, and walk through the thing. But I'm not gonna stand and fight with you. I will not. You can call me a coward.
I don't
You can
want
call
that.
me anything you want. All those names, do it. But I will not do it again.
Please stop asking. Please, can you stop for the sake of this conversation?
No, I'm just saying I won't do it again. That's all. Okay, great. Then let's take our space and let's not do this anymore, because I'm really getting frustrated. And I'm really, really, really sick of this argument.
Stop. I'm sorry.
Okay, so let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours.
So Johnny right now appears he's trying to get space from Amber, right? He's like, I'm gonna go, you're gonna go, and I'll see you in a couple hours. So he's trying to cool down, which I think is a pretty smart tactic, right? I mean, right, Jay? I mean, wouldn't you say if you were in a heated kind of a heated situation?
God, I have been here. Oh my God, it's just the thing is, it's I think you and I've discussed before that when your adrenaline kicks in, you've got a 30-minute window where you can't actually make good cognitive decisions.
Right.
And so he's trying to get out of that space where he can go reflect on this and make clear-headed decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's really where he's at a disadvantage. Until he escapes that situation, he's at a disadvantage, and she's playing it. And yeah.
I think that's a great point. And let me just point that out for guys. This is a good tip. I always try to give you value on things you can learn in your life in general. And one good rule, and I've heard this in almost every book I've read or any advice, is do not make an emotional decision, right? So if you're in a situation where you're feeling your adrenaline's up, your blood's pumping, you're really just hyped up, remove yourself from that and wait to make the decision. And it doesn't have to be with an interpersonal fight with your girlfriend, wife, whatever, boyfriend, whatever it is. No, I'm talking about financial decisions. I'm talking about school decisions, life decisions. Before you just impulsively make a huge decision that will impact your life, wait. A common sales tactic is to push urgency, immediacy, right? Especially if it's a high pressure sales. Remove yourself from that. Cool down. Think about it objectively. Take your time to make a decision. Never feel pressured. Understand that it's a tactic to manipulate you, whether emotionally or financially. It's some sort of manipulation. So understand that you want to remove yourself from that.
Yeah, if you can get away from the situation and go invoke. Rudyard Kipling wrote. He said, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I know. Their names are what and where and when and how and why and who." So if you can get to a place where you can ask, how does this affect me? Why does it affect me? So one of the questions I like to ask myself is, why does this scare me so much? What am I really afraid of here?
Right.
And I mean, it's a clarifying question, because you can then sit back and look at what's coming at you and why you're reacting. And if you get into a space where you can enact those 6 questions and start applying them in different ways, it's a huge help. And you can't do it while you're in an emotional space. You can't do it.
Yep.
Okay.
Stop. Okay.
Why are you saying stop?
Because
May
you're being
I
so-
go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you walk away from me with that. You don't understand how much more.
It causes me stress when you walk away.
Trying to reel him in, and actually, she's using that. That's the ploy of abandonment. You know, you're abandoning me, and that she's. I mean, seriously, this is he needs to escape, and she's reeling him in, and he's at a disadvantage here.
Yes,
very honorable, very honorable for him to be saying, "Hey, look, I need to get away," because the next step is physical violence.
Right.
Because, you know, I've been married before, and in my first marriage, you know, and I'm friends with my ex-wife now, believe it or not. But the thing is, in my first marriage, I was a youngster, not prepared at all for marriage. And one day I got angry, and I picked her up and I put her up against the door, and I saw the look of terror in her eyes, and I thought, "Holy shit, I can't do this again."
Yeah, yeah.
And from then on, it was hitting walls. But I had this physical need to react, and if you've got to escape, you got to get out of there. Honestly, go hit a punching bag, go do something, get the steam off, and then clear your head and think about it.
That's certainly something that I think people don't understand it, and especially men. You know, when we're talking about men, women relationships, male, female relationships. You know, that violence, what you're trying to hold back, you're trying to redirect, right? But when somebody is pressuring you, they're almost putting it in a situation where that's more likely to happen. They're creating a situation, but her manipulation, her behavior is creating a situation that makes him more likely to be violent, that is triggering him, right? So let's keep this going. Amplifying.
Yep.
Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Please, no, you're causing me immense stress right now when you walk away like that. There's no reason to be mad.
Well, then say goodbye. I haven't walked away. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave. Let me leave.
Stop pushing me! Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with a stick and then saying, "Why are you saying the words you want me to say?" Stop poking me! Stop rushing me! Stop throwing me against the wall and going, "What? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall?" Stop pushing me!
Wow.
I'm rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my space. Whether you like it or not, I will take it. And you will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing anything
this
to you.
and continuing
I'm
with
not
the rhetoric,
continuing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't. Okay, stop. I'm stopped. Stop. Now I have to go. Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple of hours. Okay? I'll give some kind of revelation makes you feel better. You know?
Can we pause this for a second?
Yeah, sure. Right here. Yeah.
So what I'm observing here is that from my my perspective point, and we all have different perspectives, but from my perspective, this recording is of a guy who has been here many times before and has the presence of mind to spell out. So, I mean, seriously, he's he's got his cognitive fairly decently, but still saying he needs to get away. He's spelling out things that are precise and explanative here. And so he's been here many times before with this. to the point where he's so frustrated he feels like he needs his fight or flight. Says, "I got to go,"
Right.
and she's
Right.
playing him like a violin.
Yeah, she knows his triggers, and she's literally now trying to trigger him because he's trying to use the tactic that he's probably used before because he knows it's effective for him, right? He knows that removing himself from the situation is effective, and she's trying to shut that down.
Projecting. You're causing me stress. Yes.
Right.
We'll just
Okay, you can go ahead and play.
talk,
Yeah.
or we won't talk, or we'll finish this, or we won't finish it.
He loves her.
Yep. He clearly cares about her.
But this is not.
God.
Not happiness.
You to
This is
stop.
not. This is.
Please stop doing
Oh my God.
so much fucking stress. I'm gonna die at this age.
Here you go.
I'm gonna die. You're causing
Ugh.
so much stress.
Here we go.
Please stop.
Jesus.
I feel like I have a heart attack almost every day. Please stop.
Then
Please
what are you
stop
doing? Why-
doing it. Please stop. He's so fucking mean.
Why
You're
are
a
you
fucking
with me?
bully. Stop.
He's
Please.
mean for wanting to leave.
Fine. I just said, can we please have a normal argument? Just even a normal conversation.
A normal argument, right? See, that's a normal argument, meaning an argument the way she wants to have an argument, which is a knockout, drag out, fight it out.
30 minute to 3 hour long fight.
Brawl. Yeah, brawl, essentially. That's what she wants. That's what she thinks is normal. That's what Amber Heard thinks is normal, right? Very unhealthy frame of mind.
Normal argument, and for the last hour I've been begging you to please just leave it at that. Let's just go on with our night. I would have been able to come in with you. We would have been able to let it go in a few minutes. It would have been fine. It would just, if we allowed ourselves to have fucking normal arguments. Please, you're killing me with this.
Here you go.
Killing me. You're fucking killing me. Fuck.
Is that a sailing term?
You, please, I want you to just go. I want you to take your medicine or whatever. I'm sorry that I've upset you.
Yeah,
this
I think.
much.
Thank you, Sean. I'm ready to go. Thank you so much.
I'm really.
Okay, so like that's thanking the bodyguard there, Sean. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for that audio. That was a interesting listen there, guys. And once again, if you cut out just the "you're fucking killing me," and you did not listen to the whole context of that conversation, you wouldn't understand that in that context, he wasn't it's clear he wasn't doing anything to her physically in that instance.
She's projecting.
Yes. Winning Reality says, the thing is, it's a rigged game from the start. There never was a real relationship. There was never anything to save, but early on, you swear it can be fixed. She doesn't care about abandonment. She's a pro-victim.
Oh, that's poignant. Oh my God, that's so. I mean, in my opinion, that's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, I see a guy, and honestly, I think the reason a lot of our hearts go out to Johnny Depp is because he comes across as an authentic, genuine, caring person, and he really wanted to make this work, and it kept blowing up in his face. And I mean, I hope he recovers. I hope he can recover. It's horrible to think if he wouldn't, but.
Yeah, and I guess and I guess someone's saying you guys missed she was blocking his way, so he pushed. Okay, well, once again, if someone is blocking you from leaving and you've communicated that you want to leave, I think there's a whole lot of difficult situations here, right? Like, is there a way to get around her without moving her, right? But if that's the only way out, and he moved her out of the way, like somebody's blocking your way out, they're retreating your exit, and you move them, right? To me, that's justifiable, but I mean, once again, it's a case by case. I didn't see any videos, so I'm assuming that's accurate. But yeah, that's a tactic, right? To block your escape, to make sure so you can't escape.
It's a control, power and control. Will It's all about power and control.
Yeah. So someone asked if psychology. They said, "Do you think Dr. Barr's psychology would help?" So do you think psychology is something that could come in here and help Amber Heard, or help this scenario? Do you think psychology is a solution?
There always has to. I'm not a psychologist, but for it to work, there first has to be an admission of an issue that can be corrected. And right now, I don't think she can admit that she has an issue that can be corrected. So, I mean, I don't see anything helping. Medication, all it does is numb and dull the response. It doesn't correct anything. So, for psychology to work, somebody has to say, "Hey, look, I got a problem." That's hard.
That's the first step. And that's one of my big beefs with psychology is you get people like Amber Heard who are on the extreme end who are never going to admit there's a problem, never going to admit that they're at fault at all whatsoever. Psychology is of no use, to those folks. By the way, Carrie, it says, thank you for giving men a safe space to reflect and learn. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And look, I've tried my best to help men and women, right? But when there's an issue that is disproportionately affecting men or women, we're going to call it out, right? We're going to say, hey, this is an issue, right? And we need to bring this up as an issue because the effect is coming down on men, right? That's not to say that there aren't situations in which women are abused. That's not at all the case. But what I'm saying is there are cases where it's turned around, it's flipped on its head, and the victim, or rather the abuser, is made out as the victim. And that, by and large, is coming out on one side of the coin here. Jackie Joe says, you can't have an equitable, intimate relationship with a borderline personality.
That's true.
I mean, right? That's pretty much a fact, right? I mean, it's
moving goalposts.
Yeah, it's not possible. You literally cannot have a healthy relationship with somebody with that personality type. I just don't see that as being something you can work with. I think from the jump, the issue was that Johnny thought that his relationship could fix Amber Heard's deeply seated personality traits that clearly she has not resolved herself, has not taken effort to fix, and has moved from relationship to relationship.
I think biologically, as guys, we're hardwired to observe external beauty, and that's a disarming piece as well. And I think in this case, there has been some reckoning going on that just because someone may be drop dead gorgeous doesn't mean that there's a problem there that just balances the whole thing out. And you got to say, wait a minute.
Yep.
I mean,
yeah.
So
understand that. And I like this one. Amber prefers women, men are her meal ticket. Well, when you have that sort of psychology that men are just a meal ticket, that men are just a wallet, that men, and I've heard this, and not just from Amber. The whole thing is this is not isolated to Amber. I've heard people say men are just a meal ticket, men are just sperm banks. I've heard that one too. It's a disgusting way to view people. And for all that I hear from the side of the feminists that say, men are the objectifiers, men are the ones making us an object. When you're turning a man into a wallet in a sperm bank, that is just as objectifying on the other end.
I would be remiss if I did not mention this and give a shout out to Cassie J, who made the movie The Red Pill. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, Cassie J. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen The Red Pill, go watch the movie The Red Pill. If anything, it's going to let you know that, you're allowed to say, I appreciate the addition I am to society. Because, I mean, we don't tell ourselves that. What we do is we put our nose to the grindstones, and we don't actually, we're told you have to do this, you have a duty to do that, and we do it. We man up, as I said in my video about a week ago. The Gus Fring character in Breaking Bad said, "Men just bear up and do it," and he was telling Walt this, and that's oftentimes what we do. And sometimes we have to say, "Hey, wait a minute. Sometimes I'm gonna need some help, and it's okay for me to ask for it." So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, and you should never be afraid to search out the people and seek help if you need it, right? Man or female, right? If you need help, have the courage to look at the areas you want to improve, whatever that is, whether it's your mental health, financial, physical, whatever, and seek help where you need it, guys. I mean, that's how you improve, is by getting somebody to help you improve. When I didn't know how to work out, I went to go find a trainer, right? You're searching out somebody who knows how to help you in that area. Demian says, just join the stream. What characteristic or traits make men like Johnny Depp vulnerable to getting into relationships with BPD, borderline personality disorder, or HPD, histrionic personality disorder women? What would you say, Jay? What characteristic or traits make people vulnerable?
All of us have a deep-seated, programmed there's a piece of us that, first of all, we want external approval. Secondly, we're taught that we're unlovable without external approval. And those two things are definitely going to come into play in most every. I mean, I've done a lot of work on me and trying to be strong and aware and present, and those pieces still come up for me. So I see Johnny Depp as a very strong personality on one side, and then the other part of him is why can't I make this work? So I don't, without knowing more about him, right now I just want to sit back and respect the fact that he has had the courage to come forward and bring this out, because she told him, she dared him to do it. She dared him to. She asked for this, and I've got to respect that. So I don't really know. I don't have enough information to make more of a judgment than that.
Yeah, I can say, from what I've seen during the trial, I think the thing about Johnny Depp, the one characteristic he does have, when you look at his childhood, his attachment issues, Scott mentioned it here, right? There's attachment issues, right? Because he had a traumatic childhood. So a lot of times when you have a traumatic childhood, you have some attachment issues that can make you more vulnerable to trying to seek out some scenario to heal that. Because psychologically, you're trying to, rectify these issues that you may have had in your younger life as an adult. You're trying to live out these paradigms and kind of heal them and fix them. So I think that his childhood definitely had a huge factor on that. 100%.
Is that why I've set up a life where I keep going into court?
Maybe. I don't know. You can tell me, Jay. But you try to set up the life that'll lead to in my opinion, guys, always try to set up the life that'll lead to the best long-term happiness. And being with someone that's like Amber Heard is only going to lead to a life of misery. So please do avoid that. One thing you don't avoid, guys, is smashing the like button. Make sure you're subscribed on this. Make sure you go over and check out Jay. Jay, we're at an hour and 30 minutes, so we're going to call it right here. But thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure, as always. Like you said,
yes, it has.
If people want to find you, Substack, Twitter, your website, anywhere else I'm missing right now, Rumble or Odyssey?
I'm on Telegram at ADA Rights. Telegram, the ad is ADA Rights.
Telegram and ADA Rights.
I do a lot of material there. I have a lot of videos there, a lot of discussion. So
perfect. And he is unscripted, unfiltered, and definitely unbreaded on all of his takes. So guys, check out Jay. Check it out. Thank you so much, guys.